The Baker's Men Collective presents.
First up, the Kemp store. It's publicized as the first Black-owned cannabis shop. And at first, when I started to read deeper into it, it was then stated that Sean Kemp was only 10% owner. And then a recent story that just came out now lists him as 5% owner. So a lot of the outcry right now is like, it is indeed not the first Black-owned store because it is not majority Black-owned. And this is going to actually tie in to what's going on in Jersey right now and how certain wordings equate to like certain things technically, but realistically, that's not the case. Jersey also has something set up where there's supposed to be a socially equitable program put in place and regulated, but upon legalizing the cannabis, everything's changed. Now it's going to be something similar to this story where you could be 10% owned by somebody of color, a minority, a vet, I believe women and people with disabilities. And then you now fit under this category where you can kind of like poach off of these licenses. And that's what big money does. And that's what big money will continue to do. We see it here with Kemp, and we're going to see it in Jersey just someday. I mean, look out for it in Seattle.
Very true. And I would say with that, there's a Leafly article talking about this happening, like not specifically what you're saying, but that the Kemp store was coming out and they were having a huge turnout on opening day and all this other stuff. And it's Black owned, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I wonder what the percentage is. And then we find out that shit's 5%. Now you go onto their website, they've issued a statement, which I thought was smart of them. Because to not say nothing, your store is done. Because folks is really protesting your shit. The first thing they said in that statement was they apologized because they know they fucked up. Basically, the wording was inappropriate.
The way that they painted it is that it's Black owned. But in reality, it's like homegirl from fucking Popeye's Chicken. You know what I mean? She gets on the commercial and she's chucking the drive and selling the chicken, but that's not the fucking owner. You are, at this point, a mere mascot with 5% stake in the store and calling it the first Black-owned cannabis store. I feel like that's kind of like a diss to when the first Black-owned cannabis store actually does come around. Hopefully we see it eventually.
Yeah. But to that end, also, I'm not here to bash Kemp in any way, shape, or form unless, he knew that this was the marketing strategy they were going to use and he was okay with it. Then my nigga, you agreed to be their puppet. Mm-hmm. And that's disrespectful. And you're going to have to sit with that on your own. But for the rest of you, if y'all had the audacity to drop this shit and run with it and not ask that man to be the spokesperson and process what that would look like, knowing that the numbers of ownership is fucking public information, y'all grimy. And you don't even know what the real issues that's going on in the streets right now. You're not even aware of it. So this statement is just a sham.
Any way you cut it, I feel like he's complicit in trying to pull one over on the Black people of Washington, the fans of the Seattle Sonics, and then doubly on people who are Black and fans. So I feel like no matter what, you're complicit in that because you allowed them to say, hey, this is a Black-owned store, and you're down there shaking hands, but that's not the case. Like, I feel like no matter how you cut that cake, like, it's a fuck situation.
Yeah, the rest of the statement, they claim that this is the first step in a future plan to provide more diversity into the industry and so on and so forth. And to that end, all I say is we'll see. And finally, they're going to align themselves with the Equity Task Force. And that's when I was like, skirt! You had me okay all the way up through this. Like, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. The Equity Task Force, we done told you. That's a group of people who make recommendations to a board that cannot change the laws that have passed in Washington.
Mm-hmm. It's a hollow standing. Like,
yeah.